Coming to you live from my brother's apartment where the Wi-Fi is still good. It's WrestleZone on a Monday, following Monday Night Raw and a very, very long, disturbing, sad, yet I would describe as progressive weekend for the wrestling community. I'm Kevin Kellum of WrestleZone.com. Joining me is the always faithful Rest Friend. Hello, Rest Friend Iridian Fierro.
Hello, Rest Friend Kevin. How are you?
You know what? If we would have done this show, I think I was supposed to be with you guys on Friday, and I had tech issues. I was doing comedy in Valparaiso, Indiana. I had a good time. I think people were distant from me, so I feel all right. But my allergies are coming up, so I'm very scared about that. But we'll get into that later. But it's been a very, very sad long weekend. It isn't about me. It's about a lot of very faithful women and men who came out and were a part of the speaking out movement the past few days. And that is something we're going to talk about here. If you're with us live on the stream, you can kind of see it on the scroller. And if you're listening, you're like, what are they talking about? This has just been going on and on and on. I think for some people, it's almost nauseating to kind of follow all of this. But I think if you kind of focus on the positive of it, it's like this is needed. This is like the vetting of the wrestling business socially in terms of how people are treated. People, okay, doesn't matter who, people are treated is very, very important. And we kind of see that as a social movement well out of wrestling, now wrestling being impacted by it. So a lot of people joining us. We will talk about Monday Night Raw. Don't worry, we'll get into that. A lot of crazy stuff with Randy Orton, Seth Rollins, Rey Mysterio. People love when Dominic Mysterio, his son, gets involved. You are feeling that.
I'm one of those people.
All right. So we'll get into that. There was almost someone almost lost an eye on Monday Night Raw tonight. So we'll get into that and a lot of fun, crazy stuff that leads up to Extreme Rules. But we got news just in the last hour before we went live here, and you can see it on the ticker. Impact Wrestling has confirmed in the last hour that they have fired Joey Ryan and Dave Crist. They are also looking into allegations of misconduct related to one Michael Elgin. Now, the speaking out movement, it accused many people of many, many things to varying degrees, some of them more serious than others. So we have to make that clear. We aren't going to spend the whole show getting to all of them, but in terms of Joey Ryan, he was one that was accused of many, 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 many things that were very, very graphically described by more than one person. And one person is more than enough. So with him, it was pretty severe. He did put out a statement. It was lengthy. It did not seem like a complete denial. He did address a bunch of different issues in his life and kind of opened more of the life up than someone can do when they're already accusing you of these awful things. With Dave Crist, it's a weird scenario with him. He was already in some type of the wrestling term is heat for different things he did in the ring. So this is, a lot of people talking about bad behavior outside of the ring that is criminal in some regards or detestable, even if some people think these things are legal and they're not. With him, we learned today at WrestleZone as well that there was already heat on him within the locker room, and he's not been able to change in the locker room for a considerable amount of time and was already seen as on the outs. This is following an injury that an opponent suffered, Rich Swann, in January in the ring. Rich did not get an apology. A lot of people in wrestling say if you're in the ring with somebody and they get injured, you're supposed to apologize. Dave was not doing that, and people were very furious about that. Now these allegations kind of follow that up. So we're not saying that Dave was released because he didn't give an apology. If he was, that would have already happened months ago. We understand, and Impact is saying it, is that he's been released because of these allegations. And we would believe, we're led to believe, speculatively based on the statement, that is based on the validity of them. Now, WWE also fired gentleman Jack Gallagher on Friday. That was occurring shortly after we were on the air, I believe. So there has been some response to this. Another prominent name that was accused was Matt Riddle. Now, with Matt Riddle, he was on a legal defense of this quickly, and still was featured on Friday Night SmackDown, though WWE did put up a graphic noting they were aware of the situation and kind of alluding to the idea that this show is taped. And here we are, we're in this spot. So other people are saying, why didn't WWE remove that match? If he's been accused of this, he was featured for 20 minutes on the show. It wasn't like it was a short segment, but obviously I don't even know how to respond to that. But we do know that Impact, WWE, and AEW, we'll get into what they did today, are responding to this quickly and swiftly. Some people are saying not good. What do you think of the way that the wrestling world is responding to this so far? Because it's kind of different in terms of how people see it, because the response to it sometimes is the most important thing.
Yeah, there's been a lot of women fans, especially like when you go on Twitter and you look at all of these stories, you're just like, oh my God, I can't believe that this is happening. This is like so heartbreaking. And you just like, these wrestlers are wrestlers that you've met at shows, that you've had conversations, you've bought their merch. So for a lot of them to be terrible people is just like, it's a shock initially. And then you just like, I don't know, you get like a feeling of sadness. You're just like, wow, you know, this wrestler was capable of all of this, made my favorite women's wrestler, you know, feel uncomfortable or did this terrible thing to them. There's companies that are handling it very differently, I guess, to the level, because there was like a list or like an unofficial list that was like going around on social media that had like a bunch of names of all of these guys who were involved. And they were like wrestlers in huge companies, but they were also promoters, like owners of your local gym. So it wasn't just like these few names that we're mentioning. It's like a lot of people. And WWE's handling it differently.
Was that going on? No, to be specific about this list you're referencing, was that going on online before these things became kind of public? Was it privately distributed?
No, as the stories would come out, like names would get added to this list. Okay. So the very first name on that list,
because it is I would say that there was something just with WrestleZone. We have a team of people, and it was something where we kind of had to keep track of each other and make sure we were on top of this. And we kind of took a pause for a little bit on Friday. Kind of just stopped. We just stopped and said, how serious is this going to get? And we just said, why don't we just let these people tell the stories first? And then we'll kind of come in late Friday as SmackDown goes along. We have to cover that show. It's on television. And it isn't an easy thing to cover because we're still fans of this. Yeah. I mean, and a lot of people say, oh, this is going to kill wrestling, or this has killed wrestling for me. I don't think we need to rush that conclusion. Because this is about individual awful people in an art form that we enjoy doing bad things. Yeah.
And you know, wrestling is our escape. So for us to go and have all of this going on in our world, it's just like insane.
Monday Night Raw was tonight, and people fought in front of hockey boards. Hopefully, no one had the coronavirus, even though that was what we were talking about last week. Yeah. And you know, there's still good people in wrestling, so don't worry. I know some people are reacting to this in a bad way. I know this has been a part of wrestling culture, and it has. But I think this has been a part of showbiz culture, well beyond them and wrestling and a bunch of different things to a degree. But now I think with social media, it's a lot easier to get out there and say this isn't okay,
and to have these receipts of everything that happened.
Yeah, and it validates it. Then. It validates communication between people and stuff like that. So see, I already have people texting saying, "Is wrestling business dying because of this?" I would not say it's dying.
No, I think it's going to get better after this.
It's an evolution.
We're going to weed out the people who don't need to be in the industry. We're going to make a safer place, safer environment, more comfortable place in wrestling, and I think it needs to be done. So.
Yeah, so it's a different thing. Also, there's some people that let's get into the situation where some of these are varying levels of degrees. Some people sexual misconduct, assault. Okay, so some people see sexual misconduct. That's a wide spectrum of different things for some people to read, and part of that is that's kind of an easier thing for people to read first before they go into the whole article. And I can understand that. You know, even on the byline, I wrote misconduct because for some people it's a very unnerving. For lack of a better, is maybe even a triggering thing because there's people who've been affected by these things, or you know someone who has. So that's why we kind of put on the soft gloves with this. And don't worry, we will talk about wrestling. It's okay. So the thing here is today we learn of one that is still upsetting. And this is of comments made by All Elite Wrestling Sammy Guevara. He's been a very big featured superstar for them, was featured prominently on the Stadium Stampede match, the main event of their last pay-per-view, and has been a featured player even in a main event of television last week on Dynamite. A breakout star for them, if you will. Now, in 2016, he was on a podcast. This is a podcast, and he's shooting the shiz. And basically alludes to doing a WWE tryout, being in the presence of one Sasha Banks of WWE, and saying that he was so attracted to her, he would want to R her. Okay, I'm not even going to say the word because to me, I'm a comic and I don't like saying that word. Comics love saying a bunch of different dirty words, but we like to say them within context. So the context of what he said, I can understand what he was saying. It's still revolting that he chose that word. And when did it become so hard to say, wow, I find her very attractive?
I literally Oh my God.
Did people lose the ability to say, you know who's hot? This person. And
why
that's
couldn't
enough.
he have just said that? He could have been like, wow, I saw Sasha Banks. She was gorgeous. She was really attractive. I was really attracted to her. You
want to be even a little bit dirty, a little bit more hubba. Hey, look at her. Like, hey, whoa. That's it. We get the idea, buddy. We all have red blood cells. You know what I mean? Like,
and you know what? People are like,
it.
Sammy's young and he's still learning. And I'm just like,
no.
That doesn't excuse his like wording. And you know what? His YouTube channel, I am subscribed to his YouTube channel. Back in the day, he was making, he would say inappropriate things in his video, and you would just be like, "Whoa, can you say that?" Like it's like insensitive.
Sure.
So,
and there's jokes in movies 10 years ago. I think people would still be like, "Oh, it's fine," and then you watch the movie now, and you're like, "Wow, okay."
Like, wow, who let them say that?
You watch some 80s teen comedies making casual, not even like, "Oh, we're going to build up to this joke, and here's this big," making just casual references to people being gay, just casual, just dropping a slur, no big deal. Like we're on to the next, and it's just like that was a different time, and I understand the different time argument, but this isn't like a long time ago. This is 2016. He said this, and this isn't like him saying this about anyone, and it wouldn't be okay if he said it about anyone. But guess what? You say something and you say it about a specific person, you're going to get the reaction of that specific person. And he said it about someone who is probably one of the most vocal, vicious, and reactive audiences on the internet. And that is me saying how intimidating they can be. Yeah. And I'm talking about Sasha Banks' fans, the stands, if you will. I heard stands is a term that people
you used it appropriately.
People asking, can we talk about Monday Night Raw? We will. We will.
We're working our way up to it.
We're working to it, but we're going to talk about it. So Sasha Banks and Sammy Guevara, at some point in the last 24 hours, did speak, and they did post about it and follow up on it. Then AEW follows up and says, we're suspending him for a month. He's going to sensitivity training. He will be suspended without pay. The money that would go to him is going to go to a women's shelter in Jacksonville, Florida, where we're based. So a lot of people found that to be very, very nice. But the issue with this is Jimmy Havoc, who's also featured just this past Wednesday on Dynamite, is one of many, many British wrestlers that were accused of a much more severe level of assaulting.
Who is actually accused of that R word.
Yes. So Sammy Guevara is tossing it around like it's a joke. So that Sammy Guevara, you're going to have to pay a lesson. And I think this is a guy who's going to learn from it. And he doesn't seem like he seems like a guy who has genuinely said like, okay, I understand I made this dumb choice of words. Okay. Whereas this is a completely different action. With Jimmy Havoc, the statement that came out about him is he's addressing substance abuse. There's going to be some rehabilitation for him. We're going to support him through that and then reevaluate his status. Okay. So that means they're not firing him. But I think with him, it's a legal situation. With Sammy, it's all there. There's audio of it. You can see it. You can find it. You can find it in 2 minutes on Google.
Yeah.
And the issue with that is it's fun. All right. So Sammy, we're going to agree on this. With Havoc, I think it's just a legal situation as to why he's still with the company right now.
Yeah, because it seems with Jimmy Havoc, it was more of a slap in the wrist than Sammy.
I agree. It is so other people texting with their different takes. And don't mind you. You guys will say stuff, but if I think it's dumb, I'll tell you it's dumb. Herman, only reason they're sticking with Sammy is because he's at AEW. There's a lot of people that I see that are younger that like how much AEW is quote unquote woke politically.
Yeah.
And I don't know if we can say that about everybody in the company. I'm not accusing anyone of anything, but I could see like, they're upset about that and different things like that.
Yeah.
I would hope this wrestler I enjoy in television would do that. Thomas Blair texting and says WWE forgave Hogan. So what will the Riddler play into the future? Don't forget Big Show incident hotel, Uniondale, New York. Don't know about the Big Show incident in Uniondale, New York. I don't know that exactly.
Well, WWE has a special way of handling things, sometimes sweeping things under the rug and just kind of going for it still and kind of forgetting people forget, even in their own storylines, if it doesn't involve their personal lives. Like
with Hogan, the thing is, it's a thing he said. It's an awful thing he said. I don't know if having him back in the ranks is fine. He's never going to wrestle again. And
he's also not going on an AEW show.
No. And the thing is, Sammy Guevara is going to be back on television if it looks like what we saw happen today happens. Mind you, his status has to be really valued as well. So he's still, you're in the outs here, pal.
Yeah.
So there is still something to be said for that. And it's worth noting that Sammy Guevara got under the skin of many a Sasha Banks Bailey fan this past weekend, side of all this awful news that we're reading about, in which they kind of went back and forth with Les Sex Gods, Crist, Jericho, Sammy Guevara, saying they had the most watched Wednesday night segment.
Yeah.
But they went head to head with Bailey and Sasha, and they said, no, you guys may have had the most watched show of the night overall, but our segment had 86,000 more viewers than you. And there was just kind of this debate, and it got petty, and it was very much struck me as
fans were bringing out demographics, Kev.
I know, but you could tell that Jericho and even Sasha and Bailey were having a lot of fun with it. They understand it. This is a business, and they're just drumming up things. And then the Sasha stands will not stand for this. They will not stand. They dyed their hair blue during a pandemic.
I almost dyed my hair blue. Kevin, I'm going to tell you a story. When she came back and she had the purple hair and she took the wig off and her hair was blue, I almost had a heart attack and I wanted to buy a blue wig. I was like, I can do it. I can do it.
A lot of people joining us. If you're with us for the first time tonight watching live, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast WrestleZone. It is available on Spotify. It's on Apple Podcasts. It's on TuneIn. It's on iHeart. So if you can't watch the show on your phone, you can listen to it on your phone. It's very, very easy to access. We also have a bunch of bonus audio in that podcast feed. Stu Bennett, you know him as Wade Barrett. He's got some bad news. Well, we recently did an interview with him just this last week. We also spoke to Crist Jericho recently. Lisa Marie Varon, one of my favorite WWE women's champions of all time. You know her as Victoria. She spoke with us. That's all recent interviews in the last 2 weeks. So you can go check it out. Go subscribe. Once again, if you have Spotify, we're on there as well. You can listen to podcasts on there. So go and check out the podcast. Rest Friends is also available if you're looking for that with Iridium. So are we allowed to talk about wrestling now?
We can totally talk about wrestling.
I know. We spent good 17, 18 minutes here on the stuff we need to get into.
We covered it, yeah.
So I think it's worth it here. Other people mentioning the Sammy Guevara issue, saying he's young, he's a good talent. You do stupid things when you're young. Yeah, it's true, but you have to learn from them. So
yes.
I'm of that camp here too. Guevara is one of the. We haven't even gotten into the very, very serious ones here. And we're covering that all at WrestleZone. We're trying to keep up with it, but some of it at some point it's like I'm aware of this. We talk about it. At some point, we can live on with it, and hopefully eradicate this from the wrestling business in general. I don't think that's a controversial thing to say, by the way. I don't think people should be alarming. Like that isn't like you're just like how could you say that they have to fire people that do? I was like, if you did this, hopefully Iridium will rejoin me here in a minute. If you did these things you're accused of, you shouldn't be in professional wrestling. I don't think that's an alarming thing to say, and I don't have to be a wrestler. I don't have to work for WWE or any other company to kind of make that statement. I think that's a pretty fair statement to say. Hopefully, Iridium will rejoin us here in a moment, and we can cover everything else going on in the world of wrestling. Monday Night Raw was tonight. What did you think of it? Go ahead and give us the 1 to 10 on this week's edition of Monday Night Raw. This was an episode that really set up a bunch of different things for this week's the upcoming Extreme Rules pay-per-view on the WWE Network. And they did something that I was not expecting, opening the show with Dolph Ziggler, recently traded to Monday Night Raw, and is going to take on Drew McIntyre for the WWE Championship. I was surprised by that. I was very, very surprised by that decision on his take. Drew taking the match was interesting. Him saying that they had a 2-for-1 in the trade to SmackDown, which involved AJ going to SmackDown, Bobby Roode, and Dolph Ziggler coming over to Raw. Iridium rejoining us here in a minute. Iridium, 1, 2, 3. I think she's coming. There she is. Iridium, what do you think of Dolph Ziggler on Monday Night Raw this week? They open with him He's got a big old pompadour. He's really rocking the high pony this week.
His
and comes out in a big
ponytail
way.
was very Ariana Grande. Very
Okay.
Ariana Grande.
I'm not a fan. Not a fan.
You're not a fan. Okay, well, I don't like his hair. Usually looks like ramen.
Ariana Grande, one of the worst artists I've ever seen perform at Lollapalooza.
Kevin, how dare you?
2 words.
I can't.
Backing tracks. Backing tracks.
That's another episode.
Severe backing tracks. I don't.
I cannot right now.
You're turning away because you know I'm honest about this. Okay.
No,
all right.
I can't with you.
If Ariana Grande fans want to come at me, okay. All right. I'm a good guy. I just don't like it. Okay. You got a voice like a Ferrari, all right, but you're putting it in the crappy engine of a crappy car. Okay, that's what happened. We got an engine, we got a Ferrari engine and a sedan. That's what we're dealing with here. All right.
So blaming it on Lala. That's what I'm blaming it on Lala. Well,
right, so he's doing the Grande ponytail.
Yeah.
He calls out Drew, kind of lures him, and Drew says, all right, dude, I'm going to take the bait. You and me in Extreme Rules. Is this just another veteran guy that we've seen before, like Bobby Lashley, being primed to build Drew up for something bigger? Or can they make this more than just another title match for Drew? Because to me, on the surface, that's what it feels like, because they haven't made Dolph Ziggler feel dangerous in such a long time. He's done a lot of cool mid-card stuff. He's always been a great player. I think he's a guy who can be a WWE lifer if he wants to be. But with Dolph, there is this sense of great match. We're going to have a story that feels dangerous. We're going to feel like something's at the stake here.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to get the belt. I think it's just going to be another match for Drew. I'm excited, though, that both Ziggler and Bobby Roode are going to be on Raw now, because that's just adding to the tag team division. You know, we have the Viking Raiders, the Street Profits, and now Andrade and Angel Garza are kind of like on the same page. Maybe there could be like a fatal 4-way tag match for the championships. Who knows? I think that's like what could be pushed instead of Ziggler as champ, because I don't see that.
Who knows? I mean, they made Bobby Lashley feel like he was a threat. I'll say that when we watch that Backlash pay-per-view,
yes,
that match may have had an interference, regular WWE stuff that kind of aggravates you, but people left that match saying, you know what, that was a lot better than I thought it was going to be, because you felt like Drew could lose the title and Bobby was going to beat him. I think this could be something where once the bell rings, it's on, and here comes the showstopper, Dolph Ziggler again, and you get this great match, and Drew wins. I don't see Drew dropping this title. And if he does, maybe it's at SummerSlam to someone of a significant raised status that has some momentum. With Dolph, the thing is, you got to get that momentum into him in a few weeks and remind you that this guy can do stuff. So hopefully that happens in a few weeks. I'm not writing it off, because I think Drew can really walk as a champion right now. And he is. He's doing that. I enjoy it. But Dolph is a guy who we know can steal the show. He can do it if you give him the time, he can do it. But he hasn't done that in a while. Other people with different takes here on this week's Monday Night Raw. You mentioned the tag teams. Robert DeFios, who was on vacation this week, gave it a 9.5.
9? I don't think it was a 9, Robert. Jesus. Robert,
who usually is with us on the show,
he had too much sugar. 5.
He had a lot of sugar here. That's a very good rating from him. He must have really, really enjoyed this week's show.
He's like caffeinated and well rested, I guess.
Yeah. Steven Chambers texting in, Big Show feuding with Orton looks like Extreme Rules. You know, a lot of people talk about this. Their very own Bill Pritchard talked about this. There's fear behind the scenes at WWE the last few weeks with Paul Heyman, who had a great focus on younger talent like Drew McIntyre, Andrade, Humberto Carrillo, Aleister Black. That was his focus when he ran Raw. Now Bruce Pritchard is behind there. Look what happens this week. Highly focused on Orton, Edge, a little bit of Ric Flair there as well, and the Big Show returning. Now, Big Show has the rub of coming off this Netflix show, which some people say isn't a big deal, but that debuted in the top 10 on Netflix. It's not that is a hugely underrated thing to think about. And I'm not just bringing up his size. You remind you of what danger he can do. Now we have Randy Orton and the Big Show. They had a segment in the ring. You know, he called him out. He tried to get physical with him. But Big Show is another player that they've tried to light up so many times. I think Big Show can do some cool stuff. I do think he could be motivated in this match and done something. But this one, unlike the Edge one, where we've seen it before, we hadn't seen it in a long time. With Big Show, I don't know. I just think there's some better pair-ups with him that he could do something exciting with a younger superstar than having him in there with Orton, which we've seen before. Though this is a different Orton. You know, we have Legend Killer again.
Yeah, I grew up watching Legend Killer, so I don't know. Randy is just reminding me of those back in the day when he was always feuding with John Cena, where he was just coming out and RKOing everything he saw in sight. It was scary, and like he's scary again. So I'm excited to see Orton and who he's gonna face next.
And if this is Big Show being the gigantic offering to that character, revived Orton, and this is building to Orton doing some bigger things like another title run down the summer, then I'm okay with it. If they're getting Orton to do another title program with a guy who's done it a lot, you want to add some other things to it. I'll say this: Orton made this work. Big Show is good. I think Big Show is not a bad promo. He's a very underrated promo. But I thought this is very, very interesting in the way that Orton was kind of following on what we heard earlier in the night, which this is my favorite thing of the whole night. There's some great wrestling in the ring tonight. We'll talk about the title matches because they had a bunch of title matches tonight. But what did you think of this Edge promo? Directly into the camera in an empty arena, just the ring, the arm wrapped up, talking about, I was so happy to be back. They put this cool, they call you a legend killer. They're going to put on all this merch. They call you a legend killer. Isn't that a fun thing to say? I bet that's a fun thing to say. Now, there's something they called me. And then I knew he was going to say rated R superstar. But it was one of those like fan service things where then they let you know just a little bit and they tease and then they give it to you. And then and he went on and on and on. But then he threw in these great lines in there. Like, you're going to wish your dad was shooting blanks the night you were conceived. I was like, holy, whoa. Dude, he went into your dad's testicles before you were conceived. That's some meta stuff. What did you think of Edge tonight?
Man, Edge is always so good. His promos are always super exciting, super fun to watch. It's just like, oh my God, this guy cannot cut a bad promo. He honestly can. And I'm excited for another match. I don't know when Edge is going to be cleared again. But they're going to keep giving Randy Edge, and Christian is probably going to get another shot too, because I don't want to believe that Christian's match, that squash match, that was his last match. I don't want to believe it. He was in a dad bod outfit.
The physicality with it, the physicality with Christian last week, and it was treated like this wasn't a sanctioned match. This wasn't him. It was very limited physicality. Like he had to do very, very little things. But he did take a solid shot upper body. Yeah. And for a guy who retired because of concussions, that was kind of alarming to me. And it proved to be a rating success for them as well. It was an upgraded show. And that was also a show coming right off for a pay-per-view. So I think that's another thing too. It's interesting they're telling so much story with Randy Orton and Edge, and we know we're not going to see Edge for a while, period of time.
And Ric Flair's in this thing too.
Yeah. So I'm interested as to what they're going to do with this. If this is something where we see Edge in January, because it's an 8-month time frame for this injury. This is also not a spring chicken. You're talking a 45-year-old guy who has had bicep tears. He's had his wrist fused on top of the neck. He's had the Achilles. He's had a lot of very, very, very serious injuries. Yeah. But based on that promo, I am under the impression that we are not done seeing Edge.
Yeah, he's coming back.
I would love to see that be a Royal Rumble match. If you just want to save it until WrestleMania next year, and maybe, hopefully, fingers crossed, fans are back at WrestleMania in Los Angeles next spring, that would be a great match to do it. Edge is not a guy who's going to work a full-time schedule. We know that already. So I'm okay with it. If this is just the long tease, I'm all right with them. So we got that, but there was a lot of good in-ring action tonight. A lot of fun matches. We mentioned the tag team match between Street Profits and Viking Raiders. They were successful. Just a feel-good kind of match to wrap up everything here. Andrade and Garza attack them. That feels like a rehash to me. I did not feel. I was like, it's such a feel-good match. All right, this is wrapping it up. They're done. Okay, Street Profits have proven they are the best. They have the belts. They beat the Raiders. Good, fun, short match, right? Then here comes this match we saw at WrestleMania. We saw this in April, So I was like, what did this do? Unless we were going to do a new team or something fresh, this didn't feel fresh to me.
But Kev, Zelina, before that match, they panned in on her backstage and she was ready to go. So I kind of felt I was like, okay, maybe they're going to announce that Garza and Andrade are going to be, going after the belts after the match. Mm-hmm. But when they were attacking the Viking Raiders and the Street Profits, I was like, you know what? I feel like they're on the same page now. I wasn't really sold on it. So now I'm just like, okay, I see it. This could be a great group, because for the longest time I've been wanting Teddy talked about this too. I want a group. I want the group. I want the Mexican group. Just give it to me. Just give me the group.
I am a Mexican person. I want to see a successful Mexican group.
Like, come on. This needs to be like Undisputed Era, but like here, you know, it could be her. And then we have Angel Garza and Andrade, add Humberto in there. Like, you can add Dominic. I don't care. Add Dominic. This is the new faction. Dominic is basically almost in the WWE Hall of Fame. He's a veteran at this point.
Stop it. What are you talking about? Dominic
add him already. I've been watching Dominic in
Frank,
wrestling
I understand.
since I was little.
I get it. You've been watching Dominic since you were little. All right? But you're gonna have to have some journalistic integrity right now. Okay? We're gonna have to analyze this and not she's gone. What happened here? We just lost the rating again. Hopefully she rejoins us here. But people saying, people texting in, was Andrade and Garza should be number one contenders for the Raw Tag Team titles. Someone saying that. I think that'll happen here. I won't be surprised if that doesn't happen. And other people saying, no Dominic. They don't want to see Dominic back in the ring. I'm okay with Dominic. He's going to get back in the ring at some point here. All right, so she's rejoining me here in just a second. 3, 2, 1.
The internet did not want me talking about Dominic.
I love technology, man. It's something else.
The world did not want.
As long as Dominic is masked. Dominic is going to get the mask when it counts, guys.
I don't think Dominic's going to.
He's going to get the mask when it counts already.
I don't think Dominic's going to get the mask
on him. What?
I don't think Dominic's going to get the mask. I think he'll be fine without the mask.
All right. So, by the way, Dominic is Rey Mysterio's son, and Rey Mysterio is the wrestler, not just.
Oh my God! You can add Rey and Dominic into the group. I'm blowing people's minds. I'm blowing people's minds.
I gave you a little whiff of the fantasy book and smells, and you just went off on a tangent.
One day it's going to happen, Kev. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but give it maybe a year or two. I see a group. I see a group.
What did we think of the women? They were featured in several segments tonight. We saw Liv Morgan get tapped out to a new attitude, Natalya, with Lana in her corner.
I love that.
We saw Charlotte and Asuka, I thought, have yet another great match. It is a match we've been seeing often on television recently, but it was another solid one. And Charlotte Flair tapped out. I was shocked. Her shoulder got injured before the match by Nia Jax, who was just trying to, provoke Asuka a little bit more, and she got Charlotte Flair. I enjoyed the promo a little bit, in which Nia was trying to bring up that she's only here because of her daddy. And then Charlotte demanded that someone hold the ropes for her before she even continues this conversation and mentioned Nia's family. But she didn't bring up The Rock. I was like, bring up The Rock. Come on, say that Nia Jax is related to The Rock. If you're going to go there, go there. But later on in the night, Nia Jax, who has injured people legitimately in the ring, once again injured Charlotte Flair. And this was a reality playing into a segment, and it was kind of surprising to me. Let's see if Iridian can rejoin us once again. Internet is our enemy today. It is just our enemy. If you're listening on the podcast side, you're like, how is this working for them if that was watching live? It's working. I appreciate the people being with us here. A lot of people watching the show live. Thank you so much. Hope you guys are enjoying yourselves, and Iridian will rejoin us. Let's go to your comments, though, while we're waiting for this to do it. Give me 1 second. I'm going to reboot the feed. Oh, there we are. You're here. I don't have to reboot.
There I am.
Gotta love it. And she's gone again.
Oh, no.
Gone again. Already. We are fighting the enemy of.
We really are.
Yeah, we're fighting the enemy here, but we're still. All right. So Natty as a heel never lasts long. That's what Ernie says here. What did you think of Natalya and her new attitude?
I'm really excited for Natty. I'm such a Natty fan. I think she's really good in the ring. She's a veteran, so she knows how to handle herself. I always wanted her to have a better push, and I hope now that with Lana as her manager, like, we'll get that, because Lana just adds things. Like, she's the pizzazz. Sure. She adds things to stories. So now if she's managing Natty, I can only imagine Natalya winning, because Lana's going to be like sabotaging people in the ring.
Your proposed group of Latinx superstars, Nishajwa has texted in. He says your proposed group should be called the Crusadors. They should be called the Crusadors. And there's something to there. There's something there. People saying you should also add Grand Metalik. And
this group is gonna be lit, Kev. Lit. We got names. We're gonna have auditions. I'm gonna pitch this.
Are you going to be Selena Vegans' assistant for this group?
Yes, I'm gonna be taking notes. I'm here for it.
All right, John Lopez texting and saying the Iconics are underappreciated. They were in action tonight. They were not successful as they lost their title match against Sasha and Bailey. They are the reigning women's tag team champions. This match was fine. There was nothing super revealing about what this match was fine. I was underwhelmed by this in comparison to what happened. No, Charlotte and Asuka was great. I thought Natalya and Liv had a great, fun little match that really developed that relationship, and they laid out Liv for Natalya, which Liv has her own fans online that are very vocal and they want to see something with her, especially younger fans. She was a very, very young fan base that like her. Anyone I meet that's like under 5'3", and I asked
it's the cat. It's the cat thing. Yes. That's what it is.
Anyone I meet that you would describe as quote unquote petite, like someone who looks like them, and they always bring up. Who is the Liv Morgan? I like Liv Morgan. This is my and like there is that audience where you kind of like
the age she's younger.
Yeah, I had a friend, Eddie in high school, and when we watched wrestling, he loved the Big Show because Eddie was 6'3", and he just loved the big tall dude. Like he loved the dudes that look like it, and I can get that. So I've seen that too, but I didn't mind the loss for her. A lot of good developments across the way here, but the most revealing one, if they're doing Charlotte and Nia, okay, they've done that before, and they're definitely playing off Nia hurting people. All right, that's reality. Okay, that's smart, that's clever. But they were teasing that they were going to break up Sasha and Bailey again, and after they won their match, they're teasing it, and saying that we got the women's belts. These belts are great. It's nice that you have two belts, and I really, really support you. And I was just like, and they're looking at each other eye to eye. I'm like, Charlotte don't have an opponent at the pay-per-view. Now, Asuka doesn't have an opponent here. So she's going to be going for that Raw belt. It's going to be Sasha versus Asuka, a match we have seen before, but never nearly as big a platform as we see now with them having two titles and the potential of them getting all the gold. What do you think of that? Sasha Banks, Bailey with all of the women's titles on Raw and SmackDown.
I don't know. I already don't agree with Bailey having two belts. I would see it if it was Sasha, because Sasha has, I don't know, maybe been pushed a little bit better in the WWE. But I wouldn't be mad if Sasha had two belts. But I don't think they need 4 belts. Like, there's other people on the roster, But I definitely think Sasha will have a fantastic match against Asuka. But I didn't want to see that match. I wanted to see Sasha versus Bailey.
And they laid out Asuka tonight as well. So that was another thing on this week's Raw, where it was like they definitely made this idea of them being the 2-woman power trip of getting all the belts, even though it looked like this is a group that was this pairing was going to break up in April. So I think adding all of the belts to it, and there's something there. There's a there, and I'm interested. So if they got me wanting to see what the next thing is, you can't say it's boring. Can't say it's boring.
You can't. And we also might get a reunion with Ruby Riott and Liv Morgan. They had a little interaction backstage. Who knows? There's a lot happening in the women's division. A lot happening with the women tonight, and I was very into the idea of it because I thought they need some fresh things, but they also did it with some people we've been waiting to see some stuff with. I was like, okay, Asuka needs something new. You're doing Charlotte. That's always going to be a good match. I'm never not entertained by it. So we got to see some fun things with Apollo Crews. MVP once again tried to get him to join the fold, only to be attacked by Shelton Benjamin from behind. Short match. I was wishing they would get more time. It's kind of upset of the title matches. This was Championship Monday. This was the shortest one of all of them. And I thought there's something there. Bobby Lashley attacked him, laid him out. It's okay. I was hoping that Shelton Benjamin wouldn't just be this mechanical piece in the storyline. Like maybe they would introduce him as the player, but they didn't. It's Bobby Lashley with MVP in his corner against Apollo Crews in some type of scenario. It was one of the things I was least interested in the night. I was like, it started really cool, and then they kind of went off. Yeah.
It didn't appear. When the matches aren't as good as the promos, I'm worried, in a story.
Yeah.
It can be a fun thing to watch, but end of the night, we knew we were going to get Dominic Mysterio, the most interesting person in your book. But I would rather talk to his Hall of Fame father, Rey Mysterio, who had his eye injured. He's wearing the kind of the Jushin Thunder Liger flare under one eye in his mask here, and he called out Seth Rollins. Dominic was there, and Rey said, as a father, you don't want your kids to be hurt. And you came here, and I told you not to come here. You did this. And as Dominic says, Dad, I'm gonna be here. I'm gonna fight, and I'm calling out Seth Rollins.
He turns into the camera, and the camera's looking at Dominic, and I'm just like, oh!
That
eye
kid,
contact. It was good.
When he found the camera, you're just like, someone backstage is like, okay, this kid's raising the business.
Someone's getting a raise.
And then obviously comes out Monday Night Messiah. He has Austin Theory, he has Buddy with him. They get flanked by the other people that have been involved in this, supporting players, Aleister Black and Humberto Carrillo. Seems like at Extreme Rules, we're going to see a multi-man match. End of the night, they grab Seth Rollins out of this wild brawl, nearly drive his eye into the steel.
So close. It was like this much.
Come on, because he's a dirty, no good heel. He scrapes away, and you got to save it for the pay-per-view. You got to pay You got to pay your $10 a month to see that one. You don't get the payoff on TV all the time. Come on, they had AJ Styles win an IC title match 2 weeks ago. We got to make you plunk down your dollars here. All right, so this was Monday Night Raw. There was a bunch of good things on it, not too many boring things on it. Even things I would say that we could put in the less interesting category. They still had something to them.
Yeah,
a lot of things were set up. A lot of things were set up this week. A lot of new things. So I felt a sense of Bruce Pritchard's touch. And also, this is a well-paced show. I would say there's a lot of people who have been noticing the pace of SmackDown is fun. This didn't feel like a 3-hour show. I'm giving this an 8. Solid 8 out of 10. What did you give this week's episode of Monday Night Raw out of 10? I'm
going to give it an 8.5.
Okay. You're with Robert. He gave it a 9.5. He
gave it a 9. I was like, okay, Robert.
Yeah, I wouldn't. The thing is, we're giving it very good ratings. Very few things on it. The matches were great. And if you want to see, the best match of the show was Charlotte versus Asuka. Another just banger from them. I thought Street Profits and Viking Raiders had another just really, really fun match. And Viking Raiders didn't look bad in the loss. The cool angles were neat. Edge was the best thing of the show. I mean, he's just a guy who can get so much out of the gravity of his character and people knowing him for such a long time. He's able to go to some other levels. He's another guy who's gotten better at acting. He had those skills outside of it. So Extreme Rules, if it was this Sunday, would you be into it?
Oh yeah, I'd be super excited, especially if we're going to get Seth Rollins and Ray in any form. I'm here for it.
Does Dominic get in this match? Dominic
definitely gets in this match. Okay, do you remember that Brock Lesnar night in Chicago when
we were there?
Yes, we were next to each other.
Huge pop. People lost their minds when Dominic got in this match and got physical.
Crazy. Yeah, I was so excited.
Yeah, if you're a diehard WWE fan for the last 10, 15 years, you saw this kid when he was 12 and now he's on TV. There's something
I saw people battling for custody for him, and now he's all grown up, talking into the camera. I was like, oh my God, character development to the max. Here we go. I'm here for it.
Yeah. People with different takes here about Rey Mysterio, Ray Jr., Lucha House Party, Black and Zelina as a stable.
Let's go. People are behind my stable idea. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Yeah. A lot of people have different takes here. Gavin Coombs bringing up this past weekend's edition of this. I want to bring this up here as well. I haven't been able to see it.
Neither have I.
Neither have I, but I've seen the clips and they are very good. And this was something we kind of thought was going to be revealed. The Undertaker: The Last Ride docu-series has just been based on the last few years of his career. Will he or won't he retire? And this one kind of covered the build and the production and the execution of one of, I would say, most WWE fans' favorite matches this year that didn't even happen in a ring. It was a boneyard match. When it was announced, people were not into this, but they found a way to make it work, hide the weaknesses, accentuate the strengths. Undertaker looked like Undertaker, and if this is the way he goes out, I could be okay with that. I don't think it'll be the best match he's ever had, but I'm okay with that. And that's kind of what he said. He has no desire to get back in the ring right now.
Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean he can't do another cinematic match. He might want to. Like, it's easier, I feel like, for him because he doesn't have to do a lot.
True, but then, I think with fans coming back at some point, pulling the ace of here is the Undertaker, and we're back. Our diehard fans were loyal to us, and we got through this awful pandemic. People are going to want to go see things, and they're going to want genuine attractions.
Yeah.
That will great demand for tickets. Undertaker is an attraction. Even if he's only going to be in the ring a little bit, you can say you saw one of like those top 5 wrestlers. And there's still many, many young fans. I can say this. Undertaker is one of my favorite wrestlers I've ever seen live. My nephew I don't think you'll ever see him live. He's like 8 or 9. No, I brought him to Survivor Series, and the one wrestler he wanted to see, he knew he wasn't going to see. He's like, well, I'm going to see this guy. He counted off the guys he was seeing. And he's like, it would be cool if The Undertaker was there, and I was in the car with my brother. And we were like, yeah, it would be cool if The Undertaker was there. And there is that element. I think with Undertaker, him as an attraction live on a show, even if it's just an appearance or a cameo thing, I think you could have him at WrestleMania as long as he wants to be doing something like that, like a surprise appearance, and that would be cool.
Yeah.
So especially if we get a live WrestleMania next year in LA. Speaking of WrestleMania in Los Angeles, WrestleCon announced some news today before we sign off. I wanted to mention this. Good news about them. They were one of the first major kind of non-WWE entities to say, hey, we're in trouble here going into WrestleMania season. Obviously, WWE pulled out of WrestleMania, but they were the big kind of independent wrestling convention. They took a huge financial hit on this. They put it out there. They did a fundraiser to kind of compensate for that loss. The hotel they booked said that you still owe us this money, even if fans aren't coming, even though no one's going to be at the hotel. So you can't really say that no one's going to be there. So there's this big thing about it. Wrestling World rallied behind them. Chris Jericho rallied behind them. And WrestleCon has announced plans for a spring 2021 event. Does seem like a lot of big entertainment live events are doing this now. Riot Fest here in Chicago, one of the biggest rock festivals in the country outside of Lollapalooza, which was also canceled. They've announced that, hey, whatever we were going to do this year, we're going to do it in September of 2001. Obviously, this all plays into whether or not we can defeat this awful pandemic, which has affected the world. What do you think of things already being announced for 2021? And I mean, obviously, WWE has to play this by year, but, LA as a city was very aggressive with their regulations. Very with the regulations. The last we heard is they weren't thinking about having anything until maybe the fall of 2021.
Wow. I don't know, every state is taking it differently. They're all in different phases. So I think at this point, if WWE wants to have like a big, maybe if they do decide to have WrestleMania, they'll have it somewhere that's like, COVID free at some point.
You got all those fans traveling in. To me, it's like it's an international event. Are you going to tell people that they can't come in and see this event from certain areas in the world? And it's the whole question of what is wrestling. We're starting to see some shows. There were some independent shows. GCW had a show outside in a park recently. There will be drive-in wrestling shows. There will be a backyard wrestling show from GCW. There were some people that did it with very limited social distancing, like IWA Mid-South. I saw a picture of their show. We were worried about what their shows were going to run like, and it didn't look too safe. If you want people next to you, if you want that vibe, IWA Mid-South will do it, and it did not look safe.
No one had a mask on. It was...
No. And I did this show. I did this comedy show at the Market Lounge. Thank you to them so much. I felt safe at the show. Hopefully everyone's fine at the show, because you do take that risk when you. I mean, here's the thing: you do take that risk now.
When you go, that you where you have gone, but you don't know where other people have been, what they've been doing, what they've touched.
Everyone knows this. We're going to the grocery store. You're all right. Let's send the younger people in the family to go do this, and you're mitigating your risk. Now, if you want to go live your life and be on patios, I understand. You're going to go and do these things. The world needs to run a little bit, but it's still there. And I don't think having huge crowds of 15,000 is a smart idea.
Definitely.
Right? But if we have 50 people, we spread them out 10 feet away from each other, and it's this big dining hall.
Yeah, if it all needs to be socially distanced, if everyone needs to have masks on, if that's how it has to run, then let's do that.
I performed this weekend without a mask on, but I didn't have anyone within 8 feet of me, so I did feel comfortable.
Yeah.
And I spit when I talk, so I was kind of worried about that. So what's going on with Rest Friends? I know obviously you guys have a female focus with wrestling this week, and this has been a very, I would say, female wrestling fans have been very, very vocal this week. Obviously, obvious reasons with the issues of speaking out. Is there any coverage with you guys doing on your feeds that's going to touch upon that?
Yes, we are. Our podcast comes out on Wednesday, and we are focusing on a lot of the speaking out and everything that's been happening on Twitter. Teddy and I talk about what we've experienced at wrestling shows and our personal lives. So, definitely check that out, guys, because I think it's really important to see the female view of how, of being a wrestling fan and what we go through. Because a lot of people, women don't go through the same thing as men, and we're seeing a lot of that on social media. So we do talk about that on this week.
So it is positive. I think with especially the last few days, it has been there has been this dire sense of things, and the news is scary. Everything, the world is kind of scary. It weighs on us, and wrestling is supposed to be our escape. So then we go to it, and then we see this awful, awful reality of it.
Yeah.
The thing to remember is this will hopefully make wrestling better and safer. I don't. My nephew, I want to bring him to a wrestling show and have him not worry about. Oh, you want to buy? I don't know if I want to buy that guy's shirt. I don't think it's something we should have to ask ourselves.
Yeah.
And like I was saying earlier, it shouldn't be controversial to say that people like that shouldn't be in wrestling. It's not a controversial thing. It's right and wrong thing. So I think there's much debate to that too. All right, so we will be back later tomorrow in the midday. Dominic D'Angelo will join us on the show. Very, very busy over at the news desk of WrestleZone. We'll have a show, I believe, live streaming for you in the middle of the day. But if you're listening on the podcast, it doesn't really matter. You get it whenever you want. All right, so go follow us as well on YouTube, where the show's posted up there as well. All the different podcast feeds. Subscribe WrestleZone, looking for that WZ red and black logo. And if you like that logo, we got a bunch of t-shirts with it at WrestleZone.com as well. So go check them out. Rest Friends is what you should be following on Twitter if you want to check out more of Iridium Fiero. Of course, Iridium Fiero on Twitter. You can follow me on the Twitter machine as well, at Kev Kelm. Don't know when I'm going to tell jokes again. This was a one-off thing, and hopefully I get to do more of them in the safest bubbles that I can book myself in. So whatever bubble you're in, I hope it's clean. I hope you're washing your hands. I hope you're
sanitized.
Sanitized. And
it's got deodorant on.
Deodorant is important. I hope you got your snacks. I hope you're hydrated. All right. I hope you are. And if you're gonna, when you're watching wrestling, Iridian. I'm old. I'm getting old. I'm getting old here.
Okay, Ken. I got it. When you watch wrestling, guys, it's extremely important. Please enjoy it. Wrestling.
Enjoy wrestling. We're still allowed to do that, guys. We still are. All right. We'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for supporting the show.